redefining that space. Because when people can name a space, they own it. So those who named it male-dominated, the men own it. And so today we are redefining tech spaces to say it's our space as well. So may we redefine, may we rename, and may we own that space boldly. And Amarachi, we want strategies, what works. We want you to share with us some strategies for growth in the sector, because like I said with Helen, she's one of a few. We don't have so many women in this space, but what worked for you? What were the strategies for you to grow in this space, carve your niche and own it?
Okay, first I'll say interest. No one can compel you to do anything. There's a popular saying that you can take a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink water. So we can have this massive conference, and you can hear Helen saying 6 years she's getting tired. It's because you talk, but the people need to act. And so if you hear fantastic things, if you see the prospects and it looks so good, these people are so intelligent, how about you doing something? So the first thing is interest, right? That's how it started for me. And if I could use my personal story, right? So in 2004, I was headed to be a public health student, a master's in public health, and for some reasons, it didn't work. And I found myself in a situation where I didn't have a sponsor to go back to do my master's, and I had to take care of my father's business that was failing at the time. There were so many issues, and I felt lost. But then there was this pastor next door, and then he started a program, he called it the Pastor's Computer College. And before that, while my dad was still alive, there was this advert in the newspaper. It's from NIIT, I think it's an Institute of Technology in Nigeria, but I think it's global, really. They had an office in Port Harcourt. I lived in Aba. And someone sent it to me, to my dad, and said, get Amarachi to apply for, to write this exam. So it was supposed to offer courses around JavaScript, Oracle, I didn't even know anything about it at the time, but it was technology. I wasn't really interested, but I wanted to find out what it was all about. So I took the exam. And then I got a notification that I had passed the exam. It offered me, I think it was a 70% scholarship based on the grade I had to go study the Microsoft language, the Oracle, the JavaScript, as far back as 2004. I couldn't afford the 30%. I didn't have money to take advantage of the scholarship. I reached out to a few people. Nobody could pay for me, so I got back feeling like I missed out on a very big life opportunity. And I still feel so. So when I got back and this pastor heard about it, he just said, just come to our college and maybe you can learn a few things. And it was just a core member, I think he had just graduated from the university, computer engineering or something at the time, who was teaching us how to use Microsoft Disk operating system, DOS. Oh my God. And I'm like, okay. It was the best I had seen. I didn't know anything. So I joined the class, and then I began to learn hardware, how to put computers together, how to even fix or repair computers. It turned out that session, I came out the best student in class. So they gave me a scholarship to study web design. Interestingly, what they were offering was, what's that thing? Front something. Not front end. No. One language like that they were using to write. I thank God I've forgotten because you can't even relate. But I tried, right? I just stayed with the program. And that began to build my interest to create possibilities for me. And then at some point, they asked me to come to start teaching the pastors that were coming in my free period. It told me there was a possibility, but it wasn't putting food on my table because I had a family to take care of, so I pivoted to banking. But somewhere at the back of my mind, I knew that I had to fill that space because that hunger was still there. So it starts with that desire, knowing I want to do this, so that when the opportunity presents itself, you can take advantage of it. So moving from my 10 years experience and my 10-year journey in banking, I came out and I wanted to go straight into consulting, trainings and all that. I began to do that. But somewhere along the line, working with small businesses and supporting organizations, I found that you can't build businesses, effective, sustainable, let me use the language, businesses when their processes are not optimized, when they cannot maximize their resources, when revenue keeps leaking due to wastages. And I also discovered that the best thing to leverage on is technology. So when you finish creating a process, you finish creating a system, you must find technology that will ride on the back of those processes to ensure that things work more efficiently. I mean, you know that there are jobs that 4 people will do in a particular company, but one particular software will take away that whole drama. One software, one application will take away that whole drama that you are paying for. So that took me on that journey. So I began to get involved, learning more technology skills, began to form partnerships and collaborations with companies that are involved in data science and who are producing softwares to begin to sustain and help my clients. So that's the journey to where I am at right now.
Thank you, Amarachi. Isn't it amazing that for Helen, her father encouraged her to do this? And it's the same pattern we're hearing from Amarachi. And even earlier, when Dr. Claudia spoke, she mentioned how Dr. Madison also encouraged her. This is very beautiful lesson for us even here in Cameroon to see how fathers and husbands and brothers and pastors are encouraging women into data science. Let's put our hands together for all these he for she supporters of women. And it speaks also to the place of mentorship and support. And so the same message we're giving today, I hope you can go back and speak to another young person like your father or your pastor did. And Dr. Claudia, someone may be here and wondering, look, my path, I already have a small cosmetics shop, or I am a stay-at-home mom, and I don't want to switch, to create a tech company or to support small businesses like Amarachi is doing. How can I leverage data science for my small business? I am a secretary in the office. How can I leverage data science? So for those who are not really in tech-heavy spaces, how can they make sense of all what we are saying here? And I see some university students here. How can they create a path, career path in data science?
Hello? Okay, good. Thank you, thank you. So it's so interesting. Let me just start from here. It's so interesting that you took notice of what Helen said, of what Amarachi said about the father thing. As I was sitting here listening to them, I wrote it down on my laptop that fathers, it just does something to my heart where when we have men, our fathers, brothers, uncles are there to encourage us, to believe in us, that we can do better. It doesn't happen all the time, but when we have these people that can believe in us and push us, let's go for it. Now to the question. I'm always very interested in speaking to stay-at-home moms. No issues to that, but because I've been one. I was a stay-at-home mom for close to 8 years of my life. And how did that happen? I was in Nigeria going to school. I so much love nursing. Nursing is everything. Every fiber in me love nursing. As a little girl, 11 years old, living in Limbe, and I watched student nurses, go to their training school right behind I think it's my one, if my memory is not failing me, the hospital right there. And I would just watch them and be like, I want to be them someday. And I remember when I was in high school, my dad was like, oh, you need to go to the university and get a degree and become whatever you want to do in nursing, but get a degree. I was ready after high school to just do an HND and get it done and start the nursing thing. And he's like, go to university. But he didn't live to see me do all of this. But right after I started off my nursing journey, at some point I made the decision. I came home from Nigeria, I got married, and joined my husband, whatever he was doing at the time. That was my decision. Dr. Madison didn't tell me stay at home. That was my decision that I took at the time. So we had our kids, and this is me in my 30s. All I had to my name was my high school degree. And I went to Seka Baptist College. You know how them roll. You know how those girls roll. They can make the loudest noise in the room. And so, if you have been to such a school and you come among your mates, this is Helen. At 26, she was already working in oil and gas. And I'm sitting in my little apartment at Tam Tam weekend. The other day we drove by, and I was like, God, where will my life be? But I had decided I wanted to build my family in the meantime. But even when I thought that I wanted to go back to school, there was no money for it, okay? There was no money for it, and that was it. And there was nothing as though my husband didn't want me to go to school, but there was no money. And so I'm like, okay, when the money comes, I will go to school. This is me in my 30s. In the US. Had to stay at home again for another 2 years, just watching my kids, building my family. And the dream of nursing never left. If you woke me up in the morning, Claudia, what do you want to do? Nursing. If you turn around a year after, nursing. It was ingrained in me. I wanted to be a nurse. And so when the opportunity came, I was able to go to school. Again, that limiting belief was like, just get an associate degree and get it done. And thank God for good husbands. He was like, you can do better. Have a bachelor's degree. And then I went for the bachelor's degree. And I'm like, I started getting a little bit of faith, a little bit of confidence. I'm like, okay, I'll do a master's. And as God will have it, just when I would take the master's program in my university, they took off the master's program for nursing, and they brought the doctorate program. And that is how I found myself. I was like, I can't do it. That is too much for me. He's like, you can do it. So if you have somebody that believes in you, trust me, ride on the wings of their faith in you. Ride on their wings. You might not know how it's going to happen. Just say, I don't have it, but I'm going to ride on your wings and believe that I can do it. So that is how it happened for me. So if you are a stay-at-home mom, look, if I was to go to school here in Cameroon, it would be like, that's fine. You can understand the system. This is in the US. They are speaking. I'm yet to understand the accent. My teachers don't believe I can write an essay. So you have to write your first essay before your teacher ever believes you. So I'm speaking to the stay-at-home mom. I'm speaking to the woman who feels that, okay, I've done this so far. I don't know if I'm going to come back from there and start studying all this data science that we're talking about. There is no limit to where we can start off from. You might be 25, 30, 40, 50, 60. There is no age limit to knowledge. There is no age limit to knowledge. And who says that you cannot switch from business to tech? Business needs tech today. Even if you are a fashion designer, you need your website. You need a website for people to know what you are doing. If you are just designing clothes or sewing clothes in your little workshop and nobody knows you, nobody can see what you are doing, you are limited. You need to understand this digital space that we are talking about so that you can show off the work that you are doing. If you are a business person, you need to know how to balance your sheets. We're talking about Excel. That's the basics, right? You need to know what to do to be able to help your business grow. So you cannot just say, I'm playing one jangi here, I'm putting money here, I'm putting it in the bank. But getting to understand how the banking system is working in your favor when you put money in it is important. So it is for everybody. If you are a farmer, you need to have a spreadsheet on how you are going to know if your farming is making profit for you or not. That is what we are talking about. So nobody is left out. Buy and sell them wherever you are. Stay at home, mom. This is for you. And remember, there is no limit to anybody, no age, nothing that should limit you from gaining knowledge in this day and time. Thank you.
Your gender is not an excuse. Your age is not an excuse. The current path you are on is not an excuse. So I don't know what excuse you still have. I would love to continue asking the questions. I have many, but I also understand there are people who have traveled from very far just to be here, and we wouldn't want them to go back with some of the questions that they have. So now we're going to take a few questions, but please, let it be a question. Let it not be a contribution or a speech. And if you hold space for other people, we can take more questions. So keep it simple, keep it short, so we can hear from more people if possible. We make room for just 3 short, straight to the point questions. Those who are getting French translation at the back, ça va? Is translation working for you? Can I get a thumbs up if it's good? You can also ask your question in, okay, great. You can also ask your question in French and it will be translated. So any question in the room? Okay, 1, 2, 3. I was trying to get from different roles. So 1, 2, 3. If you keep it simple and short, it will be helpful for all of us. Real quick, your name, your question, and who you would want to respond to the question. Thank you, Harmony.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to ask my question. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Helen Asangongum, Miss Mundum 2023. And I want to say I'm very happy to be here. I've learned a lot. My question goes to Madam Helen Mani Are and to Dr. Claudia. I would like to know how can we switch from art to tech or to STEMs? It is very challenging. If you are someone whose base all through has been art-oriented, what are some of those strategies that you can put in place to switch onto STEMs? Thank you.
I'll let Helen and Dr. Claudia think about that question. We get the second and the third, and we answer all 3 at once. There was a hand at the back.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Mary Immaculate Nefru, and my question is for Dr.
Claudia?
Claudia. Is AI not built by humans? So how are we also sure that all the information we need is in AI? And how can we be very sure that AI gives us all the things we need from the AI?
Okay. And that's a very good question. And I'm sure many other people had the same question because I see people nodding and saying yes, yes. All right, there was a third hand behind the lady in pink.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm Bukubadora Sase. I'm sorry, I have a challenge. That's why I'm sitting down. Can't arrange myself for now. So I'm really so blessed by this conference, but I want to find out, throughout the exposés, I heard you guys mention some different cases, but there is a particular group of persons I didn't hear you mention, and these are persons with special needs. I think I heard Dr. Claudia, when she was talking about her son's situation, I think she mentioned autism, but when you talk about women in tech, I want to say when they say these women are women with special needs, that's to say they can't access, tech easily like every other person would. So I want to find out what is the tech, women in tech doing about this category of persons? Thank you.
Okay, so Amarachi will also respond to that. The gentleman, his hand has been up. I know I said 3, but if we don't, now they will say we're excluding the men, so. The diversity question, please.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I am Ambele Innocent. My question is, why we are advocating for AI, it is also rendering many other people jobless at the same time. So what strategies are we putting in place to make sure that when AI is replacing some job that somebody was doing in a certain company, what strategy is being put in place to cater for the needs of those people that are being put out?
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Claudia, because we also have a program for the day, and some of the speakers that are scheduled for later today will address that. The question from the doctor, sorry, I've forgotten your name, about AI designed by humans. Maybe we leave that for Susan's session. And your question about AI replacing humans and the risk for unemployment, Susan will take that too. So that leaves us with the question from the Miss, switching from art to science. That was for you, Helen, and Dr. Claudia, and her question about women with disabilities, what is being done to make sure they're also included? Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks. That's a very pertinent question. And it's a question that many people ask. And seeing as I diverted as well, it comes down to what she said about passion. And the really exciting thing is that we're living in a world where there's so much free information. Because if you go, I can list about 5 different platforms that will give you access to full, detailed training, but especially if you speak English. The people who have limitations are those who speak French. But there's EDX, there's Coursera, there's Udemy, there's Udacity. It's true that I think maybe Udemy and Udacity would charge you. But then I remember I learned how to code and I paid £7. So that's about maybe 4,000 francs for an entire program. But the thing about online courses is that there's this tenacity that is required, and this discipline and this commitment that can only be driven by passion. So you can, that's why knowledge doesn't mean anything these days. And that's why it's really urgent that we change our education system and move from what we're learning, just worrying about what we're learning, to actually how we're learning. Because knowledge doesn't have currency any longer. In my hands, if I have ChatGPT, I can answer any question that you ask me. I remember I was on a radio show a couple of weeks ago, and they had a competition where they were giving out prizes for something, and there were some riddles. So the guy will ask the question, and if he didn't know the answer, he could ask somebody on the radio show to help him. And then if I help him or someone else helps him, he gets the prize. So I just kept helping people, and I just put in my in ChatGPT in 2 seconds. I have, and the guys were like, "Ellen, come on, chef." I'm like, "He's on my phone," and they were like, "Oh no, you cheated." I'm like, "No, you did not tell me that I could not go online to check for it." So there's so much information now that information doesn't mean anything. So it's really what can you do with the information that you have. So I would advise, if you ask me, first of all, do your research. Download ChatGPT. It will answer a lot of questions that you have. And once you have information about what it is that you are passionate about, and I really like to think about it from the angle of what problem do I really want to solve. It's not just saying, okay, they say technology, now we move into technology. It's from the standpoint of, I believe that technology does not exist in the void. It's a tool, it's a means to an end. So what problem is it that you're frustrated by your current situation that you cannot solve, that you feel technology can solve for you? Once you have access to that, it gives you direction as to what training you want to take. And once you have access to the training, the next thing is projects. Things like Kaggle. Kaggle will give you access to projects that you can work on online, work on projects in groups, and also volunteer. I volunteered for about a year for a data science company that was in San Francisco. At the time, I was living in Houston, but they were not paying me anything. And most Cameroonians were like, "Oh no, I cannot work for nothing," and all of that. But that mentality will keep you from learning. So volunteer, go to, like she said, small startups and SMEs. Those are people that actually need help, and it's true that it might take them a bit to teach you. But then if you have the spirit that you want to learn, they'll be eager to teach you as well, because you know that someone who learns to pick up things like a sponge, and they'll be useful to them in the long run. So if you ask me, there's a lot of information online. I'm happy to share with you links to websites where you can learn. But the big thing is really, what am I doing, what I'm learning? If not, you would lack context and you probably just forget everything. So that's really where that is.
Yes, I totally agree with Helen. And the basic of it, the bottom line of it, is the passion. If there's no passion for it, and then you said something about why do you want to do it? Because if you don't have a why, after having everything, you are like, what am I doing? Then you get frustrated. You must have a why. And to say, and I know that is a difficult thing when people think about, I've been art inclined, so I cannot switch to this other area. I recently met a medical doctor in this country, graduated from our medical school here, was posted to work out in one of our provinces. And he wanted to live a better life for him and his family, and he got in touch with IT, and he totally switched. Yeah. This is a medical doctor we're talking about, and he is flourishing in the IT domain. He is doing so well. So again, there is no limit. Is this your passion? That's the first question. Is this what you are passionate about? What do you want to accomplish? What problem do you want to solve with that? Then look for people, look for mentors that will help you get through that transition. Don't just get up and like ask questions. Get people that will help you go through the transition. I think that will help. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could add to
yes,
that, I would also say that you need to also understand the place of data science in your current area of industry, where you are working from, your sector. If it's within the courses you studied, or the business you're doing, or what you are currently familiar with, how can you leverage data science in that space? It usually does well to start from the known to the unknown. If you jump into troubled waters or into deep knowledge very quickly, you get discouraged. The amount of information that comes to you will really scare you. You will just say, I can't figure this out, so I'm out of it, right? But if you are in a particular sector and you decide to say, what problem do I have in this sector? How can I leverage data science to begin to provide solutions? Like she said, a doctor went into technology. There's a doctor in Nigeria who developed a complete hospital management software. So right now, he's a doctor, but he has built a massive tech company, and he doesn't have any time to look at patients. Instead, he's focused on patients' data and been selling technology to other companies, and that's what he's doing. But how did he do that? He was able to identify the gap in his own space and then leverage technology, because it's easy to transition into it when you understand what the need is, and was able to do that. So I think for every one of us, don't think too much of it. Just ask yourself, what's the problem within my space, and how can technology help me solve it? And then you fix yourself in somewhere. Yeah, okay, so hi, Helen. No, what's the name again? I can't remember. Dora. Dora, hi. So I just want to this is Cameroon, so I'll speak from Nigeria, right? So I volunteer on Keeping It Real Foundation. Keeping It Real Foundation is a non-profit that focuses on inclusion of people with disability. And part of the projects that we do is we have a project, it's called the Youth Employability Skills Project. And what we do is tech solutions to people with disability. So you find out that you can teach a blind person how to do digital marketing. You can teach someone who is deaf how to do software engineering. So we have a lot of people with disability, not just mobility issues, because I saw you in the bathroom, so I know what you're talking about to say. So it's not a big deal. The word there is inclusivity. So it's a program. And one of the days I spoke to them in that conference, I remember I said, disability is in the mind. It's a function of how you think. It's what you believe. Because everyone has a disability that you are not even aware of. Because yours is physical, you think everyone can see it. And then you have that consciousness. It begins to put limitations on your mind and what you think you can achieve. Take the cap off. There is absolutely nothing you put your mind to do that you cannot do. They don't need to create a space for you. You have the space. They don't need to create a program for people with disability. Just take the opportunity. You will do amazing if you just decide this is where I want to be. You get in the class with people who seemingly don't have disabilities. You learn the same things they learn. You the same opportunities they have. You'll be amazed. People with disability, I found one very common thing amongst them: they are focused. If you work with people who are deaf, they can understand the environment better than people who can hear. If you work with people who are blind, they seem to know things better than people who can see. And when you engage them, what you always hear is, because I can hear the noises, the distractions, I am better focused. They focus on the result, on the issues, and take care of it. The blind people, because they don't know whether you're telling them to stop or to keep going, what's on their mind, they keep working at it. But because you feel that, there are other distractions, when you can hear the naysayers, when you can see someone saying, no, don't go there, don't go there, you just feel you can't. So my word to you, take your space. Own your stuff, right? You can do anything. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Marachi. She spoke of the Nigerian context, and just for our information, in Cameroon, there are many groups of persons with disabilities who are building their own tech and AI tools. The Association of Persons with Visual Impairment and Blind People in Cameroon, they're building their own tool because they identified the gap. On Facebook and on social media, the deaf community, so many of them have taken up that space because they can type even if they are not able to use their voices. And so tech is a leveler in this sense. And persons with physical impairment who cannot access certain buildings are thriving in remote jobs. I know for sure because we worked with women with disabilities and they said, I can go to the office, I can access the space, but then they had admin jobs on their phones. And so tech is such an amazing leveler in that way, and we hope that whether it's a person with disability or whoever has a limitation or a restriction in society would not wait for permission. Take the space. Some of it is free, and there are many, many jobs that the people don't even need to know who you are or how you look like. There are persons with physical impairment, persons with visual impairments, persons with speech impairments in Cameroon taking up these spaces. So let's continue to hold space for them, and the door is wide open. Thank you so much. We could go on and on and on. For those of us from Bamenda, we usually say, Tori is sweet, but the time is really short. So we will take a break for now. But before we do that, I want you to please give a big, big, big round of applause to Dr. Claudia, to Amarachi, and to Helen for sharing their experiences with us. Their names are on the board. Please do well to follow them on their social media handles. Check out their websites. Learning never ends. By looking at what they do and the experiences they share, I'm sure you would learn more. Thank you very much, Dr. Claudia. Thank you, Amarachi. Thank you, Helen. Thank you. So we will take a 3-minute break and we will be back with, there are 2 questions pending. Don't worry. The expert for that will be coming up shortly. If the protocol can help us get the chairs off the stage. Meanwhile, technical booth, if we have the video, if the sound is good, would like to have it now. I think you can be comfortable in the new space where you are. As we continue to learn and unlearn, we have another expert with us. And we appreciate her labor of love, her sacrifice. She's joining us all the way from the United States of America. Susan Schultz. She's a founder and a CEO, and her work currently focuses on the intersection. Hello? Are we together? Her work currently focuses on the intersection of technology and industry transformation. So some of the questions you had, she's the right person and to answer them. And with an extensive background in industry, with an extensive background in environmental industry, sustainable and infrastructure development, Susan has worked in private and public sector